If you like what you're seeing and hearing, please consider subscribing to the podcast. You can go to either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, or Amazon Music in the podcast section. It'll hit Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, depending on when it posts. And the video will hit on YouTube and Spotify Monday. Spotify will hit Monday evening, and YouTube it'll hit Monday morning, 7 a.m., just like it does for the audio services. So please go to those places and consider subscribing or listening to the show. You can also write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com if you want to write me a letter. Let me know what you think of the show, things like that. Or you can also find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So go to those places and please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. And with that, we'll get on to the episode.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson. This is episode 243 of Gaming with Grief, and this episode is going to be about a free DLC that came out for God of War Ragnarok. I believe it came out on December 12th. Free, totally free. I talked about God of War 2018 way in episode 189. So if you want to check out my full review of that episode, go there. You know what? I'm going to leave one of them tiles that all the kids are talking about. I'll leave it right up there in the corner. Hopefully I'm pointing to the right corner. If not, we'll see. Anyway, yeah. So, Valhalla, God of War Valhalla, free DLC. You come back as Kratos. Mimir's with you, of course. I'm going to spoil Valhalla. So, first I'll give my impressions. One thing I think that kind of blew me away about this DLC is, one, it's free. I know I mentioned that a couple times, but this is incredibly meaty, and it's not only mechanically changes the game kind of in a way, or I don't know if changes the game is the right word. The idea is it's a roguelike. So you're going through in these combat challenges with Kratos, using the axe, using the Blades of Chaos, using Drapnir the spear, in these roguelike things of getting currency to do another run, and there is an end game to the run. You fight, I'll say right now, my early impressions, I'll say a boss, and after you fight that boss, you have story revelations. In the beginning, you pick up an item from Kratos' past, usually, sometimes. It's halfway through the runs. Anyway, you have to do a few runs to get the story going in a way. You talk to the Valkyrie that are there because they watch over Valhalla and you and are part of Valhalla. And what I like is, and a lot of people have said this, but I found this to be true with me. Many the combat for God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, I felt like I was getting through it to get to the next story section. I was dealing with the combat, not in a bad way. It is good. Not in a way that fought against me, but I didn't feel, one, I'm an old man. So I didn't feel that, I was getting all the combos down. You click on a weapon and upgrade it, and then it's well, if you do this so many times, then you do additional damage, and then you could do this, and then you could chain these things together, and then switch to the blades and do this, and some of that was lost on me. What I mostly did was just, like I said, get through it. Use the basic 4 or 5 moves that I know to get to the next session so I could see the amazing cutscene and the amazing story that God of War 2018 and Ragnarok had to show me. And what I like about this is I was playing Valhalla, and the thing is run-based. So you get these fleeting echoes to buy upgrades, and when you start, you basically have to pick a path. And your path is the spear, the axe, or the Blades of Chaos. And when you do that, that kind of affects the kind of runic attacks you get, the upgrades you get to do more damage with the blades, the spear, the axe, etc. And it makes you think differently. I didn't really connect with the Blades of Chaos. Again, to get through all the combat, I just used them to get through the game. But with God of War Valhalla, I picked upgrades for the Blades of Chaos and used them more and more. And it made me appreciate the blades more. Same thing with the spear. I use the spear as more of a utility. Everybody kind of does a thing where you have a light and heavy runic attack with each weapon in the main game in Valhalla. in 2018 and Ragnarok, sorry. And you would, if you didn't like a weapon, you would do your cool stuff with the weapon that you liked, and then you would switch to the other weapon, use your runic attacks on the other weapon because they did a lot of damage, and then swap back to your weapon of choice. God of War Ragnarok has 3 weapons instead of 2. I don't know why I'm doing that. It had 3 weapons instead of 2, so you had more options. All of them were great. The animations were amazing. I like how powerful they made you felt. All that kind of stuff was really great. But again, if it didn't connect with you or whatever, like you were just still going back to using the axe mainly or the Blades of Chaos. And the more and more I played Valhalla, I was starting to appreciate the thoughtful design that went into making kind of these weapons viable. And you know what it brought me back to is I remember I heard the term years ago playing World of Warcraft. And in World of Warcraft, there's a thing called stance dancing. And if I remember right, this is pulling way back in my memory, it has to do with warriors and like what warriors did to go into a rage, to turtle up. Like there's all these like things of like switch to this and then switch to that so you could do this. I was not good at stance dancing in World of Warcraft, but strangely enough, in my opinion, Guild Wars 2 had a similar concept with the Elementalist. Because you control different elements, fire, earth, air, and water, they each did different things. So water healed. The earth powers slowed people down. Fire kind of obviously burned people, but did it a damage over time. And you could like mix and match these things, and it was literally a button press. And when I was playing Guild Wars 2, I kind of got into this like, oh, if I do this, and then go to this element and do this, and then go to this element, there's this, and there was like a penalty to go to the last element you did. So you had to like rotate and think, okay, if I go to earth, slow them down, or stick them in place, freeze the enemies in place with rocks, then I could burn them. Then maybe I'll do the water thing that'll hit everybody around, and then go to air, and air was really move faster, and there was a couple things. Anyway, it was that kind of stuff. But I was having this feeling playing Valhalla. Believe me, I know there's a point. there was this feeling when I was playing Valhalla of stance dancing. I'm using the axe. Yes, I use the runic attack. My cooldowns, whatever. But I really need to tear into this enemy or boss or whatever. So I need to switch to my Blades of Chaos because they're much faster and they're more of a medium range weapon. I don't need to throw it. I can hit people far away. Really more of a, in my opinion, like a DPS thing. Do that. The spear would stun people. So when you would stun people, you were able to do all that faster and better. And it kind of like made me get back into that mode, good or bad how I was, of stance dancing of, okay, I got to switch to this. I got to switch to the spear and stick them a bunch so that way I can slam it on the ground, pop them up. Then I can run over there with the blades while they're popped up and just sling the blades on them, do a bunch of fire damage. Maybe they catch on fire and get fire damage. Then maybe go back to the axe, do a ground pound, like really get in, maybe do some runic attacks. All that kind of stuff in Valhalla made me appreciate combat more. And I'll say this, with the new year, I went back and I was like, I really love the message story of God of War. I'm going to platinum this game. I don't platinum a lot of games. I want to stream more. I was going to platinum this stuff. So I thought, I'm going to sit down. This is what I'm going to do for the new year. I have a couple days off for the new year. In fact, I'm off today. This is actually my Sunday. It's Wednesday, the 4th. It's the 3rd. But I was like, man, I want to platinum this game. First off, I beat the Valkyrie Queen. I mean, that's rough. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But what happened was when I went back to God of War 2018, I had less tools in my toolbox from Ragnarok. I don't have the spear. Some of the combos are different, I think. And the runic attacks, I think, are different as well. So I'm at a point where I'm like, what's happening? This changes how I'm feeling about the combat. But I'm still having the time. But Valhalla totally rewrote my brain when it came to what I felt about the combat, both 2018 and Ragnarok. Like, oh, I want to go do this. I'm enjoying this. Let's continue with this feeling. And now I kind of enjoy the combat of God of War. I want to wield the axe. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to keep experimenting stuff. It's all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. So yeah. So now I'm going to spoil God of War Ragnarok because it goes on to my bigger point of, what it meant to me. Obviously, I'm covering it for this podcast website, so there's probably something to do with grief in there. And I was kind of shooting in the dark, hearing about people talk about it. And I'm just going to borrow a phrase that I heard a lot researching this and looking into it. That phrase is therapy. Therapy. Therapy is the thing that I heard over and over again when I was researching this to decide, should I cover it for the pod? What should I do? Therapy. It came up over and over again. And I got to say, I was like, I got to, even a really well-known, I usually don't try to read reviews about stuff until I'm done with it, but there's a YouTube reviewer. I worked a few days before the holiday, and since this came out December 12th or 18th, whatever, there was a really well-known YouTuber that I like who reviewed it. And I was like, I really want to hear what this person has to say. And they talked a lot about therapy, and I thought, well, if, why fight the tide? Or, the sun shining or the moon coming up at night. This is Kratos Goes to Therapy. Now, there could be some discussion line saying that this makes Kratos look weak or, ineffective. But I think that misses the larger point about just growth in general and, what I think the team is trying to do with the new God of War. From the very outset of God of War 2018, Kratos has a kid now and he's trying to be different. And that is, that's kind of like the lens you see the game from. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this affected me a little bit too much, but, there's been a lot of talk online about, Kratos not being as cool as he used to be. And maybe some people use the term like woke. And I don't think that at all. I think, the idea is, who are we? I mean, usually most people have a time in their life when they say, who was I and who am I now? And who I was when I was younger, how does that affect who I am now? And how do I reconcile those two things? And that's really what Valhalla is about. Kratos realizes that when he was young, he did terrible things. And in Valhalla, they reference the original God of War and the things that Kratos originally did to get the chains of chaos and become the God of War, and how he still feels guilt over that because Freya in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla asks him to basically be part of a council of, after Ragnarok happens, there needs to be peace. And so her thing is, we need you on the council to tell people, or at least show people that we're willing to work together. And since you were a general in Ragnarok, if you were on the council, it would appear that we were taking all this very serious. I mean, they are, but she says it would help us. And Kratos is reluctant, and I think that's why he gets, Valhalla starts with him getting an invitation. And I think that's why he's reluctant to, one, accept the invitation of Valhalla, but two, join the council. It's because he remembers who he was. And Mimir says several times, at least a couple times, listen, who you were is not who you are. And we understand, and I understand, what you did in the past, but that doesn't make what you're going to do in the future, it doesn't require, one doesn't require the other, I'm sorry, I don't understand how that came up with the thing. Anyway, so I was deeply moved by the fact that Kratos really kind of at the end says that he should be of service, to help people out, help them become part of the council. But Tyr, every time you fight at the end of the arena, you fight Tyr. And every time you fight Tyr, there's another story revelation. Tyr shows you, your wife and kid, what happened there. And says, also, Kratos killed Helios, and the sun was going to stop shining because Helios is the god of the sun. So what he did is drag the chariot back up to keep the sun moving or whatever. And Tyr said, this is part of your legacy. It's complicated, but you've done bad things like kill gods. And at the same time, you've done these good things for people. You've made sure the sun still works. You killed all these people, but because of it, you tried to do something better. And I just was kind of really kind of blown away by that. And I think that it is, again, a testament to a game that commits in 2018 to a vision of Kratos is going to fundamentally change through this. And we need to make sure that we have all these beats in place so that change feels realistic. Even through God of War Ragnarok, we've already set Kratos in this path. There's been some talk online, and I've read it, about in God of War 2018, is Kratos really, even through the game and when the game completes, is he a changed person or is he still hiding? I think that's a legitimate concern. I'm playing God of War 2018. I'm playing the after story stuff. It does seem like he's in a different place, but he hasn't really. He's still at that refusal to call section, I think. But I think with Ragnarok, him and his son, Atreus, obviously being older, a little bit older, and able to say, just, you need to be better. And don't apologize, but just try to be better and do better. And Kratos does, And I think Valhalla is the proof of that. He says, well, I was a complex person like everybody, but I want to do the right thing and be in service of people. I mean, that's like one of the last shots of the game. I think there's a secret ending, but I haven't seen it. I probably should have watched it. I think you probably need to get all the trophies to get it. I don't actually know how to get the secret ending. It's kind of alluded to a little bit. But I don't know. To me, it's just this great circle that the people at Sony Santa Monica have crafted. The idea that you can start someone off with like the refusal to call, and that can drag on a game. I still think Kratos was in a good place or whatever. But, really Ragnarok hitting home the fact that he has to do these things and whatever. I mean, chef's kiss, And it's free. I would have paid for this, by the way, Sony Santa Monica. I don't know. You guys did a bunch of research. You probably have groups that you test things on, whatever. And I mean, again, guys, everybody worked really hard on this. I would have paid. I don't. I'm not going to say how much. I don't know. But if I would have gotten these reviews and they would have said, hey, this is $10 or $20, still would have bought it. So, Sony Santa Monica, don't give it up, man. Get that bag. I think you probably could have, whatever. There's probably some metric that you're fine with. But, I mean, come on. Anyway, yes. Did I like Valhalla? Yes. Do I recommend it? Yes. It's one of those rare cases where I think that they were, at the end of Ragnarok and God of War 2018, they were like, man, what did we miss? Oh, we got to close the loop. We have this whole story thing. Why don't we do this with Valhalla and we can close the loop and Kratos can be in a better place. And so that is cool. So for that, I recommend God of War Valhalla. It's, I know it's like the first thing I played this year. And technically it came out in 2023, so I can't vote for it for Game of the Year 2024 now that I'm doing that. But, it's going to get like an honorable mention at least. So, yeah. You know what? No, I don't do Game of the Year like that. You know what? I can do whatever I want because I'm an adult. But yeah, that's it. So please, if you've liked the God of War and the new games 2018 and Ragnarok, play those and play Valhalla. It's free. It's about 5 or 6 hours to beat too. And I'm bad, so I think I spent 8 hours playing it. Still beat it. That last tier fight was rough. Especially since it's run-based and you're like, man, I'm really good with the axe. What? I'm not using it properly. Or, yeah, let me use the spear. Anyway. So I think that's it this week. Everybody have a good week. And we'll talk to everybody next week.